Hi, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Tea Time Live. A little bit later than I meant to. I was banging the desk as well now. I hope you're all well and doing okay for a Thursday. We're nearly through the week. So I have, I think, sorted out the tech. So everyone should be able to hear me. Right. So what's been going on this week? What's been going on with you? How have you found this week? Any of you watched The Dig yet? Any of you watched The Dig? That's on my Netflix list for well, it was going to be one evening this week, but that hasn't happened, so it probably end up being being on the weekend now. But obviously the British Museum put something out about the Sutton Hoo hoard the other day, which I shared on the page, so some of you might have seen it. And of course there's there's the film The Dig to go and check out, so I'm looking forward to that. And I've got a few videos coming out just covering things that have happened in this week. I don't know if you saw some of the ones last week. I covered Henry VIII's funeral and his burial. I have got a separate video talking about why he's buried where he's buried, or at least my conjecture as to why he's buried where he's buried. Hiya, Vicky. Hi, Phil. So they're all available on YouTube. I think I've shared most of them to Facebook as well. So I'm flicking eyes because I'm streaming on both at the same time. What else did we cover? Loads last week. I actually have in my diary. It's such a history geeky thing, isn't it? Hiya, Angela. What happens in what happens in particular days in the week, in time. So we had, of course, we had Elizabeth of York dying on her 37th birthday. That was last Thursday. Lady Jane Grey being executed and Catherine Howard being executed. It was quite a week for Tudor deaths and sadness last week, but the Tudors were pretty good at that, weren't they? So what have I got this week? Actually, today I haven't got a video about this because I haven't done it. Henry VIII became Prince of Wales. So of course Henry VIII was the younger brother to Arthur Tudor, who died at Ludlow Castle, and he was so Henry had been Duke of York as the second in line, and it is on this day in 1504 that Prince Henry at the time was made Prince of Wales. Arthur had died in 1502, I think, from memory. So it was obviously a couple of years later that Henry actually had the title Prince of Wales. And it was also on this date, the 18th, that in 1516 that Mary was born. So Henry VIII's first child, so his child he had with Catherine of Aragon, the first one to survive, there had been a Prince Henry, who had died. She actually did have the title of Princess of Wales. I don't know if any of you knew that. And she also lived for a few months, so not a long time, but up at Ludlow Castle. And Ludlow Castle is, I don't know if any of you have been. If you haven't, check it out. And I think I've got a virtual tour of Ludlow again on YouTube, so you can have a look. And it was effectively like a mini, not a mini kingdom, but it was a pseudo royal court. And Edward IV had set it up. It might have been, Edward IV had set it up for his son Edward to go to kind of learn, diplomatic relationships and how to run a small kingdom, because Ludlow is on the Welsh-English border. It's just in the English side and in Shropshire. And the border region, as with all border regions, was a difficult hi Diana, hi Jennifer, hi Emily. It was a difficult place to manage, I suppose. Oh, help me out with my words today. And so so Ludlow Castle, seat of the Council of the Marches, or Council in the Marches. So according to Matthew Lewis, who knows loads about this, sort of a kind of administrative capital of Wales. I'm sure the Welsh weren't overly happy about that. And this seat for the princes of Wales to kind of go learn their craft, if you like, before they would take on the mantle of being King of England. Well, Edward V, obviously, so he's one of the princes in the Tower, so it didn't happen for him. One of the others is Arthur Tudor. Now, Arthur died there. He never became King of England. And the other, so the next one was Princess Mary, who did become a queen. She did become Mary I. So, in fact, we had our first, that worked the first time, I think, I'm right in saying, with Mary. So, and she was Princess of Wales, and so that is the title for the heir to the throne. Now, patrons, if you're in my Patreon, I'd give a shout out actually to Steve, who's just joined yesterday. There is a talk from Matt Lewis at Ludlow Castle, all about the history of Ludlow Castle. He Matthew Lewis, if you don't follow him, he's got a page on Facebook. And he writes about the Wars of the Roses and Richard III in particular as well. And he's local to Ludlow, so he knew loads about it. And it was really interesting. Ludlow Castle, actually, I'm going on about it because I love it. Let me know if you've been or if you're thinking of going. It's a castle. Hi, Ian. Hi, Emily. It is a castle that it was built less than a decade after the Norman Conquest. So Norman Conquest was 1066. I think it was built in 1075. Got that right around? Yeah. In stone. So a lot of the castles after the Norman Conquest went up fast. So they went up they were built in wood and then replaced with stone castles. Well, Ludlow was built in stone first. So there's one thing about it. And the other thing that's interesting about it is it lies in a ruin, in ruin now, as lots of our castles do, as you will know. And I'd assumed, I think with a lot of other people, that because Ludlow had been a town that had fought on the royalist side of the English civil wars of the 17th century. So this is where we've got Charles I pitted against Oliver Cromwell. Because Ludlow had sided with the royalist cause, I had assumed that the castle had fallen into disrepair because it was slighted. So loads of castles were slighted. Bridgenorth nearby was slighted. It basically meant it made them indefensible. Kenilworth Castle, that also happened to as well. So you've got the the outer protective wall taken down, holes blasted through the keeps, that kind of thing, just to make them indefensible. I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of punishment involved in that as well. Some survived. Windsor survived, for instance, because Oliver Cromwell liked it and he lived there for a bit. But Ludlow, that didn't get slighted. I thought that was quite interesting because but what happened was one of the garrisons was stationed there. One of the parliamentarian garrisons were stationed there, and of course they just didn't care for it. Of course I didn't. There was it was hundreds of men with horses and weaponry and whatever in a place that they had no care for, and once it got into such a state of disrepair, they become just so expensive, of course, to repair, to get them back up to standard. And so it lies in ruin. It's very atmospheric, it's very romantic, and I'm happy to say, and I hope this remains, it's one of the places you can still go and walk around, even though it is in a ruinous state. And I like that. I think everyone needs to take a little bit of responsibility for their own feet and where they put them, and that allows us to all carry on exploring these kinds of places without the places having to worry too much about putting barriers and everything else up there. So anyway, so if you want to know more about Ludlow, like I say, there's a little trailer I've put out as well, so you can see that with Matt talking about Ludlow Castle. And if you're in the Patreon, so that's patreon.com/British history, then you can see the entire interview and talk from Matt. It was recorded pre-COVID, so it is actually in situ, and I've spliced in loads and loads of different photographs as well of Ludlow, so you can see it. I wasn't going to talk about Ludlow today, but that kind of it's just the way it went. So so there's some things that have happened. What else has happened? Saturday is the is the anniversary of Edward VI's coronation. He was 9 years old in his coronation. I will be putting a video out about that, because it's quite a cute story about him stopping the procession so that he could watch an acrobat. And on Sunday, this is I did do a video on this as well. Edward Despard in 1803 became the final person to be hung, drawn and quartered. Now I always think of, hanging, drawn and quartering is rather medieval, but 1803, that was the last one in this country. Anyway, next week we go on to Dolly the sheep, but I'm not doing a video about that either. Do any of you remember Dolly the sheep? Cloned sheep. Yeah. So so there we go. Ludlow Castle and Dolly the sheep all in one go. There we are. Actually, as well, I've added some. I don't know if any of you were here last week. I showed you some designs I was working on for some like t-shirts and mugs and stuff. Well, I've put I've put loads in. And if you're signed up to get my newsletter, which you can easily do on the website, or you can follow the links on Facebook, my Learn More button on the top of my page, and on YouTube, I think below there's a link. You can sign up to the newsletter. It's free. I send you the links to the videos I'm putting out so that you don't have to go looking for them, and you get 10% off at the shop as well. So if you're not signed up, please feel free to do that. I only send out about one newsletter a week, so I don't bombard you, and hopefully it's stuff you want to actually know about. That's the idea, isn't it? And if you are a patron, you get more off. You get 15% off in the shop. So this is not history, right? But and if you're not UK based, I think you can still join in with this. Did you know it's National Drink Wine Day? They have a day for everything, but I think I might. It's a shame it's a Thursday, although I'm not going anywhere. So yeah. Hi, Andrew. Andrew's watching on YouTube. Hi, Kimberly. Hi, Dorian. National Wine Day. I may well be partaking. They do have a day for everything. It's incredible. What else can we talk about? Anyone got any questions about anything that's like come up in history worlds this week or anything? I know some of you watch my videos. Hiya, Barbara. I know some of you watch the little snippets I put out. They are short. I know there's lots of people put out loads of fantastic videos, history videos on YouTube and Facebook. I try and do it a little bit differently. So yes, they're not as in depth, but if you're interested in something, I've normally got something I've picked up that's a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit interesting about the different topics that I include. And they are quite Tudor heavy, but I try and Barbara, I do try and cover all sorts of British history because I'm interested. I don't know what what got you into history, whether you've always loved it, or it tends to be something I think people come to a little bit later on, as in, unfortunately, not at school. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's something to do with just how it's taught, or because I had something that pricked my interest. I hope you can't hear my children shouting at each other in the background. I had something that pricked my interest, and that led me to learn about more history. I mean, obviously it led me to do what I'm. Hi, Maria, Newfoundland. Hi. Oh, you're colder than us, I imagine, at the moment. And so mine was Elizabeth I. Now, that was because I was a student. I was actually a student of psychology and business. So I was very much into looking at how people act in groups and in the corporate world specifically, but it goes over to the real world, normal world, I don't know, wider society, whatever. And I wanted a female role model. Well, I decided there wasn't anybody particular in public life at the time. So I decided to look into history, and that's how I got to Elizabeth I. She's what pricked my interest. And I decided that I wanted to go and see where she'd done things, where she'd visited. I really wanted to get my feet on the ground. And so hence why I've ended up doing what I'm doing now, which is obviously take people in normal circumstances around places, because I also went and realized that people were just, swanning through some room where something major had happened, or yeah, and I wanted to tell the stories anyway. Luckily for me, I now can. And so the other and so that was one way it took me. The other way was, in order to understand a piece of history, you need to go backwards. So I, started going into the Henry VIII story, and obviously his wives, and then just back and back and back. And what I love is realizing how history ebbs and flows. It's not this linear progression. Like, I think the Victorians really wanted us to believe that wherever we were at the pinnacle of human development and understanding, and I don't think it's anywhere near as simple as that. And so I think history, as well as being really blinking interesting, because most of the stories, the real stories, are better than anything anyone could ever write, I think, which is why history lends itself so well to historical dramas and fictions. And but yeah, then we can see how themes run through each other. So I'm actually reading a book on Cleopatra at the moment. And so slightly out of British history, but because of her influence on the Romans and the Romans' influence on Britain and Christianity, there's these, you think something that is sort of too either far away physically or in time to be relevant, and you find that there's ways that it does actually seep into how we live today. So, Vicky, I'm sure I would be in awe seeing the places with such history. Oh, yeah, I love reading about it. I mean, obviously, I am missing hugely. Like, I'm sure all of you are getting out and about and seeing. I mean, I would have. I think by this time last year, obviously, we're starting to go into lockdown this time last year, but I'd already gone to Hampton Court Palace and Peterborough Cathedral already within the first month of the year. Peterborough Cathedral, because I was there for the Catherine of Aragon festival, which they usually have the closest weekend to her interment date there, which was the 29th of January, 1536. Goodness me, I'm getting better with remembering my dates. And I saw the amazing Leslie Smith do she does talks, but she dresses as the person that she is talking about, and she doesn't talk about them. She talks as if she is that person. Incredible historian. She is the she's the curator and she's the leaseholder of Tutbury Castle in I think it falls into Derbyshire, so in the East Midlands of England, and incredible historian. She's been on TV quite a bit, and like I say, she does these talks, and I've got some photos that I might have already shared somewhere of her dressed as Catherine of Aragon in Peterborough Cathedral, and the talk was in the evening. It was brilliant. Actually, she did one in the day, one in the evening, and I was lucky enough to go to a candlelit tour of the cathedral the night before as well. I had a great time. I had a fantastic weekend. But a candlelit cathedral, the atmosphere was fantastic. I wasn't scared of ghosts, not at all. It was fine. No, it was really good. And Hampton Court Palace, I was there to see the did any of you get to go and see the Bacton altar cloth? So this is the Barbara Sue knows Mary Queen of Scots. Yes. Well, she's done a talk for again, sorry to keep plugging it, but again for my Patreon, about Mary and Mary Queen of Scots, who was she was held prisoner at Tutbury 4 times during her entire incarceration in England. Tutbury is I think it's the furthest place, according to Leslie, that you can get from sort of London and the sea and Scotland all in one. And there was, there's a castle there. Richard III, by the way, Barbara will like this, enjoyed Tutbury Castle. He spent an awful lot of money on the gardens there, apparently. So she's done a talk about Mary's incarceration there and some of the really odd things that happened to her while she was there. And they've done archaeological digs on the site to, I don't know, archaeology is interesting, isn't it? I always find it a little bit bizarre that you can dig down. Like, is the world expanding? That's such a stupid question. Which, I mean, why is everything underneath? I don't know. Where was I going with that? I can't remember. Oh yeah, where I know how many places I would have normally gone to by now. So we've obviously missing out, as I'm sure all of you can't, to get out and about again. And when I can, I might even do a few of these lives from somewhere in situ. Actually, Ludlow Castle isn't that far away from me, so that would be quite a good one to do. Where else can we do? Harvington Hall is near me. Harvington Hall is a fabulous Elizabethan manor house. It's got the most number of intact priest holes, as far as I'm aware, of any house in the country. There were Catholics who lived there during Elizabeth's reign, so of course they needed places to hide their priests and hide their altar stuff. God, not doing well with words. And so that's an incredible place. We could possibly do one from there. And when we are out about on tour again, I'll bring you some lives probably from some of the places we get to go when we're on tour as well, which I'm very, very much looking forward to getting back to. If no one's got any questions on anything I've talked about or anything they've seen in the history news, then I will start to wrap it up. I've mentioned The Dig. That's one thing I'm going to try and watch on Netflix over the weekend. There's something else someone told me about. Can't remember. Honestly, give me any tips for something that I can watch. That would be really good. Obviously, we've got the new Anne Boleyn drama coming out again soon. I'm not sure when that's going to be. So loads of stuff. Although, can I make a confession? When I go to my sort of TV Netflix type of thing, I generally don't want to watch historical dramas. Is that really if it's in a period that I know something about? Hi, Barbara. If it's in a period I know something about, because I'm not really finicky at all about accuracy. Not really. I suppose because I'm in it all day, every day. I just sometimes want to watch something outside of my normal knowledge sphere, if you like. Oh, Barbara Senior, she loved The Dig. I'm definitely going to try and watch that this weekend. That is on my list. Right then, everybody. Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I am going to do, like I say, a Thursday tea time each week. I don't know if I'm going to keep it at this time or change it, because when I worked out what time it is in Australia, and I know I've got quite a few people who follow me in Australia, it's basically the middle of the night. So that doesn't work, does it? So I might do 2 or I might change the time. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you can join me again. Thank you very much. Have a great evening, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. And I will see you all next week. Bye.